Yes, my friends, good evening and welcome once again to another um, Sabbath evening of discussing the Word of Almighty God. And I apologize, I actually started very late today. I tried my utmost best to get home early, but the traffic, I don't know, today had a lot of traffic today. I was really trying to get here like 3 o'clock so I could get everything in order, but no such luck. I had to go and get a little bit of fish, a little bit of chicken, things to eat at death, alignment. All these things had to be done, carrying groceries. So by the time I got in about 5:30. Then we had to prep stuff to eat, the prep stuff for tomorrow one time. And we put some bread in the oven. Although I need to know bread, but my wife makes she own bread for herself. She said she wanted to make she bread for herself. I said, okay, no problem. So that was successful and the bread is smelling very nice right now. So I have to monitor the bread. I don't know how to do all that. But your bread and water is sure. If you look at the title of this evening's discussion, we are talking about famine. And in time past, I said that war is coming. And now tonight I'm telling you, famine for physical food is coming. Let's say a quick word of it. So kind of Lord, we thank you for another week of life and liberty and freedom to worship you in spirit and in truth, O Lord. As we look and we glean what the world events, what the world situations are telling us now, and all of these different things that are happening throughout the world, let us look and see what we can glean this evening from Genesis 41, where there was a famine in Egypt. Oh Lord, help us to be prepared and help us to follow your word so that we may be able to see the parallels from those times and what it could apply to us today and not be lost when this great calamity comes upon us all, oh Lord. Amen. I mentioned certain things here already. For example, food processing plants closing in America. They continue to close. Over 100 plants in America were shut down. Right? That are made by all different means they are using. So the powers that be are doing things in the background, working stealthily to bring about a situation where you have to depend on them for food. You see where Bill Gates bought up a lot of farming land. So the world elites want us to depend on them for food in the last days and use that to run the world. Right? But you have to know to prepare for it. Now the Bible said your bread and water is sure. Okay? That's what the Bible says. The Bible says your bread and water is sure. Okay? Okay? Yes, your bread and water is sure. So we are going to look at the and as I speak about this now, some people seem to think or believe that the Bible is actually a book of fables or a storybook. And I had a long discussion, a running discussion with some fine folks out of America, I believe, concerning the Bible and it being a storybook. And one gentleman would have said to me on a chat on Facebook last night that he read the whole Bible. But when I quote to him Revelation chapter 12, I quoted it in its entirety. He could not respond. So a lot of people do not read the Bible as much as I'm putting myself in that. And then they read it once, and then they call it a book of fables. It's a storybook. I was told that very vehemently last night, that it's a storybook. Right? So let us see what the storybook has to say, and let us draw the parallels that is happening to us right now. And you know, so many things are happening. And people are not taking these things into they're not paying it in bearing. Right? These things are not happening by chance, my friends. They want to happen. All these things are bring about the new world order. And some people are seeing it and some people are not seeing it at all. And they're just going about their life as if. Right? As if. So last week in church, a very nice young lady by the name of Sister Heiliger. She is a certified financial planner, and she was trained by Roytech and went on to lecture other students at Roytech in financial planning, financial advising. So she's the real deal when it comes to that type of work. Now I was also trained in that type of work, but nowhere near the level where she's trained. Her former training in the accounts field was in the billing department in TSTT, and she used to have to work out the maths to bill people in TSTT back in those days. And the workload became so tenuous on her, she ended up resigning from TSTT. And she went and do that course in Roytech, and she became a certified. Now, when you are certified, you're recognized around the world when you do these type of courses, right? In life insurance, you will get to that course way down the road in the insurance career. That's like a big designation. Now, she was there, and she was not selling products, but she was in the level of the companies, businesses come to her, and she will put them, look at their books, and make recommendations, what directions they ought to go financially. And from time to time, she will also advise small groups like small churches, community centers, and so on. So she delivered the sermon last week, and it was very informative. And she quoted from this book here that we're looking to draw some points on in this book here. And we have, when you're reading the Bible, especially these days, you have to look for the parallels and draw them out. Now, we all know the story of Joseph and his brothers. His brothers was envious of him, and they left him for dead, and he ended up in behind the Pharaoh, and all what happened with Potiphar's wife and so on, he ended up in a big position in Egypt. And here now, we look at the story, as the people on Facebook say, it's a storybook. Let us look at the account, and then let's start from there and move forward. And because I don't want to take too long, because I don't want to take this bird here. Right, let's see where we'll start this thing from. So the Pharaoh, let me just appreciate a little bit, please take a time. Pharaoh had a dream, right? And he sent to call Joseph. And he was brought to him hastily out of the dungeon. Pharaoh said to Joseph, I had a dream, and there's none that can interpret it. And I have heard said of thee that thou can understand dreams and interpret it. And Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, it is not me. God shall give Pharaoh an answer for peace. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, in my dream, behold, I stood upon the bank of the river, and behold, there came out of the river 7 keen, fat-lashed, and well-favored, and they fed in the meadows. So I guess that is 7 fatted calves, right? And behold, 7 others came up after them, poor and very ill, right? Favored, being fleshed, such as I never saw in all the land of Egypt, for badness. And then the lean and the ill-favored king did eat up all the first 7 fat, let's say cows. I think that's what I read somewhere else, cows, right? And they had eaten them up, and it could not know that they had eaten them, but they were still ill-favored. So in other words, the thin cows eat the fat cows, and the thin cows still stick thin. And I saw in my dream, and behold, 7 heirs came up on one stalk, full and good. And behold, 7 heirs, that is corn, right? Were thin and blasted with the east wind sprung up after them. Right? He tell the magicians, and his magicians couldn't interpret. And Jesus said to Pharaoh, the dream of Pharaoh is one. God had showed Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good ears of corn is 7 years, and the dream is one. And the 7 thin and ill-favored cow that came up after them, after the 7 years, and the 7 years empty, lasted with the east wind, shall be 7 years of famine. I'm not saying there's going to be 7 years of famine. What I'm saying here is the way things are going, a famine for food is definitely on the horizon. And there are powers that be that are doing things in the darkness of the night to ensure that these things have come to pass. Right? Like destroying fertilizer factories and destroying food processing plants all over America. I did say that in a live here some time ago. This is the thing which I have spoken unto Pharaoh. What God is about to do, he showed unto Pharaoh. Behold, there come 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt, and there shall arise after them 7 years of famine, and all the plenty shall be forgotten in the land of Egypt, and the famine shall consume the land. Right? Now, that is one aspect of it. The other aspect of it, that is the vision Pharaoh got. So God gave Pharaoh the vision, and God's servant, which is Joseph, interpreted the dream, and they came to understanding that there are 7 years of plenty and 7 years of famine. Joseph, in his wisdom, instructed Pharaoh or advised Pharaoh to build some silos and store up the grain, so when the thing comes, they will have food. Right? Let Pharaoh do this. Let him appoint officers over the land and take a 5th part of the land of Egypt in the 7 plenteous years. and let them gather all food for those good years that come, and lay up corn under the hand of Pharaoh, and let them keep the food in the cities, and that the food shall be stored in the land against the 7 years of famine, which shall be in the land of Egypt, and the land perisheth through the famine. Okay? So that is the other aspect of it. So one aspect, the vision is problems come in, go through problems. God also through his servant give a solution to the problem. Now the part where we have to look at now. So this part here is us being prepared. Prepared in how would we be prepared for a literal food crisis that is coming upon the earth. We have to put ourselves in a position where we could get land and where we could farm our own land. A matter of fact, we have to get ourselves in a position where we get off all processed foods. Because what they are doing to the foods that we are eating is very dangerous. And the foods we process, highly processed foods that we are consuming now, it is killing us. And until or unless all people who is servants of God go back to nature and go back to whole foods and go back to planting a little garden and practice what is stated in Isaiah 66 of us keeping a vineyard, right? We must work towards that goal. I mean, all of us may not be able to go out there and acquire 5-6 acres of land in a country setting. But as much of us that can, this should be our ultimate goal. To come out of the city type environment and get yourself in a position where you can grow your own food, where you do not have to depend on the system to buy food. Because very soon, and part of what Sister Heiliger informed us about, and which I always talk about, is that they are going to take away paper currency. There will be no more physical money. There will only be digital money. And when there is only digital money, they can manipulate or instruct you how to spend your own money. They will program the money, like, for example, they will tell you, all right, you have 5,000 in the bank, XY some mortgage, car payment, light bill, internet, this, that, and you could only spend so much money on gas because you don't worry about too much fossil fuels because of the climate agenda. Right? They could program it is digital. You cannot buy more than $300 in gas for the month. So which means you have to curtail your driving. So the amount of carbon dioxide you produce with your car is less. And then they could go further than that. We want you to eat a more healthy diet. So you cannot go and buy KFC with that digital money. You cannot go and buy too much KFC because the way they're there to it. So they will allow you to buy KFC. But they will tell you you can't buy KFC and pizza and then Trader Joe's or whatever, this next food place. You can't do all that in 1 month. No, choose one. Only spend this allotment of money on that. Although that bread smells like it's ready, you know. That bread smelling nice. I might make bread ball. I don't wash the bread to burn. But it can't come out so fast. It's going to take at least half an hour to 40 minutes. Give me 1 second then. Let me see how much I need time might be. I'm ready to look at water. That should be long now. Yeah. The bread's staying too long, but don't wash. So go coil it now. I put it for 45 minutes, it's about 15 minutes inside. It's had to get dark. I should take it out of the pan and all too because it will continue to cook. Anyway, she will make more tomorrow sometime. So the bread come out of the oven, right? So what I'm saying is, we have to go back to a stage where, like how our forefathers used to operate. When I used to go holidays with my father's mother, my father's sister's house, and Maru, they used to literally live off the land. They had orange tree, grapefruit tree, passion fruit, babadine. They had rainwater. They had big tanks. They're collecting all the rainwater. They had cistern. They had river. Right? In the dry season, you used to dry up, but in the rainy season, you used to get the water in the river. They had a pond, so you could irrigate your crops. Right? They had cocoa. They had coffee, but people didn't have time with coffee. Well, they had down there. Shatine. This next one, breadfruit. All of those things were on the land. And don't talk about yam. Yam that's grow wild in that soil and that piece of land. All kind of people be coming there and begin yam. They had yam like that. So just imagine you have a little body running, some body. We used to eat body fresh off of the vine. My father used to walk out in the yard, pick up a bundle of body and come and cook it. You have body, you curry some body, some coconut milk, and some breadfruit, or some yam, and then taking in nothing. We sink water running off all the extra water off the roof that used to run in a gully. It had dashing bush growing there. Again, dashing plus dashing bush. Plus, they had goat, one cow, and a lot of chicken. So getting fresh eggs, and you could kill a bird when you're ready. No chemicals, nothing in that chicken to make it run and grow in 3 weeks. When you're cooking them fowl, you have to cook it outside and light boil it for some hours well because it's hard. The closer we get back to that type of living, the harder it is for us to be dependent on the system. What does the book of Revelation say? Come out of her, my people. We cannot depend on anything in this world anymore. We cannot. In those days, I used to sit down and suck a bucket of orange. I didn't tell you. I used to go in the orchard, pick a bucket of orange, and sit down and suck all. I don't talk about fake bananas. Come on. Green bananas, chiquito, lacatan, you name it. In that bush they have it. You understand? So we have to get back to a type of living whereby the state cannot bother us, or it will be of no consequence. Because if they cannot stop the sun from shining, the sun is what controls photosynthesis. Alright? Photosynthesis is what grows the trees. This is why I tell you your bread and your water is sure. Your bread and water is sure because if they lock off your pipe, you have no water from Wasa, God will send rain and it will fill your tanks. I mean, they could make a law and say that water is them own too, but you don't get water. So your bread and water is sure. And so you don't need them big fanciful things. Come out of for my people. Eat more healthy whole foods. Now there is a part of this thing here, and I need to read. Right. There's the verse here we need to touch up. Now, in time past, on this same life, I said to you that there will come a time where they are proposing that they don't want you to own anything. It is said that they don't want you to own anything, and you will be happy not owning anything. This is one of the ideologies they're coming up with now to do this great reset. They don't want you to own anything. And the 7 years of plenteousness that was in the land of Egypt was ended. And the 7 years of drought began to come. According to Joseph, according as Joseph had said. And the drought was in all the lands, but the land of Egypt there was bread. Why Egypt alone had bread is because Egypt controlled the food and stored the food. Right? When all the land of Egypt was famished, starving, the people cried to Pharaoh. Who is Pharaoh? The government, for bread. So this is how they want you. This is the parallels I'm talking about. This is the parallel that Sister Heiliger spoke about last Sabbath. Right? This is what I'm talking about. The people cried to Pharaoh for bread, and Pharaoh said unto the Egyptians, go unto Joseph, right? And hear what he says. Go unto Joseph, what he said unto you, do. In other words, go and do what I told you to do. Right? And the famine was over all the face of the earth, and Joseph opened the storehouses and sold to the Egyptians, and the famine waxed sore in the land of Egypt. So, who's selling to the people? The government. These are the parallels they have to draw out. Right? And all the countries came to Egypt. And that is another part of the story. Right? But you have to look at the account and draw out the different inferences that are being established. Right? And in the other chapter now, these people now who had thrown him away came now and realized the family is the governor. Right? So he ended up in a big position. Right? So God really placed him there to save his people. But if you look at the parallels of the government feeding the people to the bread, this is how it will come back in this last session here. The government will be in control of the food. Look at what's going on, why Bill Gates and all these big people, even in Trinidad now, and some of them are setting up vertical farming. That's right. Just this week, I'm seeing that they are now investing in vertical farming. Right? So this is the situation. That the world is going into a terrible state. Mark my words. I said it here already. Countries are not collapsing for just so. This thing is planned. They are going ahead with their Great Reset programming. Right? Sri Lanka didn't fall just so. The next country I'm looking at that will fall is Pakistan. Pakistan is all about trying to borrow money because they cannot pay their debt. And if Pakistan falls, India will fall. So the whole of a great part of Asia is going to go into a position where it is crazy, and this is where they will start to implement the no currency business. They're already implementing that in China and some parts of India, and this is where they're going to implement it. Come on, my people, this thing is very, very real. It is very real. I see it as real could get.
All their money on food, which was controlled by Pharaoh. The result was that the government controlled all the money.
Mm-hmm. Then, this is verse 15. The
money failed in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan. Now, this was not just happening locally in Egypt. It was now spread internationally. More than one nation was involved. The money could no longer purchase food, either because they had used up all of their resources, or because of maybe inflation, or maybe hyperinflation, which rendered the money worthless. Either way, the fact is that the monetary system in use at the time totally collapsed. After the money failed, next slide, the Egyptians gave their cattle in order to purchase food. Now, the cattle would be considered today our real asset investments, right? So that by the end of the first year of the famine, that is, citizens would have lost their money, they would have lost their jobs, and they would have lost their real assets. And that was just the first year. By the time this famine entered its second year, with money and assets gone, the Egyptians were desperate enough to plead with the state to buy us and our land for bread, and we and our land will be servants unto Pharaoh. Now, this is where it really started to hit home. Their fixed assets now, this is their houses, this is what they lived in, and their very beings were offered up. They became now totally dependent on the state for their very survival. And the state now owned everything and everyone.
So you see, my friends, this is why I had to get into what she's saying here. And she's quoting from Genesis 47. Right? Genesis chapter 47. And we have to put it on the record. Right? Genesis 47, 15 to 15. And take also your brother, and arise and go unto them. Almighty God give them mercy. Right, 43, sorry. Genesis 47. No. Right. Let's go there now. Right. And there was no bread in the land, for the famine was very sore. So the land of Egypt and all the land of Canaan fainted by reason of the famine. And Joseph gathered up all the money that was found in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan for corn which they bought, and Joseph brought the money unto Pharaoh's house. So my friends, what Rhonda is saying and what Walter White is saying is the same thing. I am just echoing what they are saying and trying to spread what they are saying on this platform. You understand? We have to look at the parallels Right? And verse 15 said, and when money failed in the land of Egypt and the land of Canaan, all the Egyptians came unto Joseph and said, give us bread, for why should we die in thy presence? For money faileth. Money will fail, my friends. This is what I'm telling you. You have to come out of her, my people. That is why the changer's message is so important. Fear God and give him glory. You understand? And you have to come out of Babylon somehow by the hook or by the crook. Or if you have to survive this thing here, this last session here, you have to come out. And Joseph said, give your cattle, and I will give for you your cattle if money fail. So there's no more money in the bank. That was like I was saying. Give your car, give your house, your assets. And they brought their cattle unto Joseph, and Joseph gave them bread in exchange for their horses, for their flocks, and their cattle and the herds. You know what is to buy a bread with a cattle and with flocks? That means that is hyperinflation. That means the price of goods and services are gone through the roof. Exactly what is happening now. This is why I'm telling you, we have to be very, very careful, and we have to watch out the signs of the times intently. Intently. Sister Heilige is on point. I read by Walter White yet, but Walter White saying amongst the same thing. He's saying basically the same exact thing Walter White is saying. Hey? Who is controlling the food? Who is controlling? The food industry is already monopolized, a monopoly by 10 companies. 10 companies, Nestle's, Coca-Cola, Unilever, Mars. Let's see if I can get to see this thing better here. Kellogg's. I know what is Jamie. Pepsi Cola. Danone. And somebody else. There is the 10 companies. They own everything you go in the grocery and just pick up off the shelf. The other day, Unilever or one of them that's produced ice cream. They said stop using the ice cream because it's contaminated. What it's contaminated with is a very toxic chemical they end up putting in the ice cream by accident. You cannot trust any of these brands. The Nestle brand is something I grew up with since I was small. My mother used to buy condensed milk to make the tea and the coffee and so on. We come from any cocoa pile or making coffee. You understand? So I grew up knowing the Nestle's brand, and my mother used to call in and win competition and thing and get things on the radio program, doing a competition with Nestle's and asking how much birds in the nest and all kind of thing. You understand? But Nestle's is going around telling people water is not a human right. And they want to monopolize, they want to, what do you call this thing, right? Patent water. And they want to buy up all the water, fresh water reserves all over the world so that they could sell you water. And it's the same thing one of them are doing. Right? Oval Media, the 29th of the 4th month, 2022, is saying an article here, the food industry is already monopolized by 10 companies, the majority of which includes Vanguard and BlackRock top shareholders. That is a big set of investors in the world. All them rich brothers invest the money with. Right? Vanguard and BlackRock. What happens when they control all of the seeds, products, and meat too? What happens when produce of meat are all grown inside secure facilities after a gene splice or inside a petri dish? and farmland becomes dormant due to overreaching regulations, lack of supplies, and manufactured inflation. When I was a young man, I looked at a movie called Soylent Green. Let's see that is in the mind. Yeah, Soylent Green. Yes. Soylent Green is a 19th century American on ecological dystopian thriller film directed by Richard, whatever his name is, and signed Charleston Heston. Right? The gist of that movie is that the world has become overpopulated and food, literal food, is so scarce that you cannot even get a tin or real how do you name it, tomato to eat, or a bottle of jam, strawberry jam, not like that you can't get to eat. You get to eat. It's a miracle. Right? I looked at that movie. And you know what they were doing in the movie? What? He was a policeman. Heston was a policeman. And when they fell up alive, you know, the whole overpopulated, you see people sliding all the side of the road all about because people have no house. People eating out of a church. When you go in a big a la carte restaurant, eating everything truck, like a tube of toothpaste, a paste in it, so and eating everything in a paste business. No real food. You understand? So I saw that movie so many years ago, and now reading this documentary just reminded me of that movie. I saw the movie when I was small. I launched the stories. Food was scarce. You couldn't get real food. You couldn't get real plants to grow and all these kind of things. And the people were being, when you're ready to die, you go and give up yourself and they pass you out. But they take it, they just start to make humans now and make food out of the people of it. And in the end of the show, the guy realized that the food that they're eating, that the government was giving them, was human beings was eating. Bill Gates insists that drought and climate change is destroying the ability to farm, and that the future will consist of populations moving into metropolitan cities where indoor vertical, remember I just mentioned that, farming is necessary to feed people. If this is the case, why has he acquired 242,000 acres of farmland over the past decades while simultaneously investing in indoor vertical farming? Who gets to sit at the table with the healthy produce served up by Bill Gates while the rest of the population eats gene-edited produce from lockdown facilities, right? Delivered to their local grocery stores and accessed only through a digital ID. This is a secular publication that is talking about what is coming. So they have farmland and they have gene-edited produce under artificial lights and all these set of things. Now, a plant produced under artificial light, you think that's better than a plant produced with sunlight? You think again. And they have already know how to gene splice and do all these different kind of things to our food. So this is where we are heading, my friends. This is where we are heading rapidly. Right? Another article from Walter Vike again, Oval Media again, 2022. Over a dozen major food processing and meat plants have coincidentally gone up in flames in the past several months. Since the start of 2022, over a dozen major food processing and fertilization plants have gone up in flames, exploding or being struck by planes. Plane crash in Arizona, Arkansas, California, Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Louisiana, Maine, New Hampshire, North Carolina, Oregon, Texas, Washington, and Wisconsin. Why are they doing all of these things? They are doing these things to drive the prices up. Some investors somewhere in the stock market realize what's going on. That war will not start. So if we cut down on all these food processing places, people can't get food to eat. When a product have less of a product, the price goes up. So greed is a play here. Hey, look it. Yeah, it's that a little too low. Come boy, come. Okay, let's see you. Come sit down on the live. Where you close it? Where you don't go on with officers? Say good night. Say hello. On the camera. Everybody seeing you, you know. You're shy. Peekaboo. Peekaboo. Alright, now you have to get back into his right? Yeah, so this is what we are seeing now. Right? The US FDA have already approved labs growing meat, genetically modified cattle. Right? It had genetically modified cattle and are funding the globalists to research and develop cellular agriculture as well as indoor growers and genetic companies. They will slap on regulations for these gene-edited products. So they are now clamping down on people who are producing too much CO2 emissions all over the world now. Right now, according to Walter White there, they said that in Holland, the farmers are protesting, but it's not making CNN and the main media because they are said that they are producing too much CO2s and all these other things with their farming. And they don't want the poor man to do any farming. Is that the brother water? Sure. Sure, the idea of indoor vertical farming could be a great avenue for those with little land, those who live in harsh climates, and everyone who wants food security while these agendas against humanity continue to roll out. But won't it make more sense for communities to be doing this to meet their own needs rather than relying on a digital ID to get access to a controlled food industry? Listen carefully, my friends. This is coming from the overall media again. The nutritional value from LED versus sunlight likely removes some of the nutrition in the produce. But if faced with having difficult accessing food, there is no desiring genetically edited food. It might be a good idea. It might not be no good idea. Genetically modified, nothing can never be good. Yes, whereas vertical farming is brilliant in many ways, it comes with beneficial and could be beneficial in smaller scale communities. The fact that this is a global agenda to remove farms and control all produced by the globalists themselves makes it incredibly concerning. Imagine in the not too distant future, going for a drive in the countryside in your mandated electric vehicle and observing dried up farm land replaced by giant turbines. It's very dystopian image, right? It's very dystopian image that one wants to experience. So this is what they are driving to. They are driving us to a dystopian reality, not a utopia. The utopia is gone. The Garden of Eden is no more. is the opposite of utopia we're going to right now. Dystopian reality we are facing right now. This is what we will be facing soon. Right? So they want us to be dependent on the government. Right? And when money failed in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan, and all the Egyptians came to Joseph and said, give us bread. Why should we die in thy presence? For money have failed. Money will fail. Let's take in a little more of our sister here. A little more
barter, the people exchange directly with each other. We had the system of using easy to trade items like salt. We had the system of coins, gold coins, silver coins, and now we have the system of paper money.
Initially, we started with
IOUs, where there was a certain amount that was payable to you once you carried your money into the bank. And now we have what is called fiat currency, which we use today. Now, I would have showed these pictures when I did my last presentation. Is it your money or whose money is it anyway? So some of you may have seen those pictures where we verified that the actual bank notes showed that. So our current financial system is based on the Bretton Woods system, which was introduced in 1944. It means that all countries have their monies pegged to the US dollar, and the US dollar was pegged to the price of gold. Now, the US dollar ceased to be pegged to the price of gold in 1971. However, the other currencies around the world still remain pegged to the US dollar on a floating system. Now, when the US dollar was no longer pegged to the price of gold, that is when it became what is called fiat currency. It had nothing back in it. But instead, it was declared by a decree from government to be legal tender. Right? That is why you could have seen last year or year before, the government could have declared that we change and cut notes to polymer notes, because that money is no longer, it's just by a decree of government, and government could change it however and whenever they want. Now, central banks control how much fiat currency is printed, which means that there is the danger that too much can be printed, and too much can lead to inflation or hyperinflation. When I say hyperinflation, that is inflation on steroids, right? Real inflation. And if you have an extended period of inflation, it can drive prices so high that you could get a loss in the value of the currency. Now, this has happened before. It happened in Zimbabwe in 2007, 2008. In Zimbabwe, the dollar notes and the $5, $10, $20, $100, they were so useless. They actually printed trillion-dollar notes. Right? Now think about it. Million is 3 zeros. Billion is 6 zeros. Trillion is 9 zeros. And they had to print trillion-dollar notes. Right? In Weimar, Germany, between 1919 and 1923, the conversion in 1919 was 4.2 marks to 1 US dollar. By November of 2023, it was 4.2 trillion marks to 1 US dollar. Right? So what I'm saying is that it has happened before. And what we are seeing now is that countries are grappling with very high levels of inflation. Some even have hyperinflation, and this spells big trouble. Now, you see why it spells trouble is that before the start of the Russia-Ukraine war, global commodity prices were already increasing. Can I have this slide, please? You find that oil aims to assert a new level of state surveillance in the digital economy. Think about it. Imagine the government keeping tabs on everything that you purchase. Okay, let's go to England. The headline says, the Bank of England tells ministers
the digital currency programming. And what is highlighted says, digital cash could be programmed to ensure, to ensure that it is only spent on essentials or goods which an employer or government deems to be sensible. So I wonder if we turn in my tithe, given an offering, or purchasing a Bible might be considered sensible in a time of rising inflation. What do you think? They determine it. Okay, let's go to England. The US. In US, it says, Biden is planning a new digital currency. Here's why you should be very worried. And the highlighted parts talk about it being feasible and programmable, and that there are various rules and restrictions built into their design which can disallow users from spending too much.
And right there, we have the smoking gun. Right there, we are seeing the smoking gun. According to what Sister Heiliger has presented here, quoting from a publication called The Hill, right? This is what the article is saying here. Let me see if I can read it out here for you. Digital dollar, on the other hand, would be traceable and programmable. The Federal Reserve or some other digital entity would have the ability to create more digital dollar whenever it sees fit. And depending on how the legislation is written, set up the currency. The dollar could be formulated to have various rules and restrictions built into its design. That is the danger of having a digital currency. Because if you have paper dollars, nobody can tell you how or when to spend it, right? Or how to earn it. For example, the digital dollar could be crafted to restrict fossil fuel use. This is the Climate 21 agenda showing up here in this legislation that they're trying to bring about here, right? And this is the same thing I told you before, earlier on in this broadcast, that they will tell you, okay, don't spend so much money on fossil fuel because we're trying to save Mother Earth, and they find Mother Earth. To give bonuses to people for spending at a particular business or particular businesses. These things are already happening in China, right? To enact de facto price controls by disallowing users from spending too much on particular products. So this is what I'm telling you, Sherry, if you're watching, if they say you can only spend $40 on KFC a month, and then you go over that, problems, right? Or even to redistribute wealth. So let's imagine this democracy going through. You work hard, you have 2.5 in the bank, in millies in the bank, and they say, no, we have to redistribute your wealth. You know what I mean? You don't want to comply with me? You don't want to worship when we want you to worship on a Sunday? We will redistribute your wealth because we have control and access to digital money. You cannot go into a bank and say you're taking up your physical currency and putting it in your bed or putting it in a safe in your house. No, it is digital. Right? So if the government say you bad behave, you only preaching on Sabbath and only preaching about what we don't want you to preach about. So here what we go do, we go redistribute your wealth. This is the reality that we are facing, my friends. This is the reality. And until we get up and realize what time it is, we'll always be in problems. We have to come out of for my people. And we have to wake up and we have to run out of this system in here right now. Because we are in problems. We are in serious problems. Look at another headline here. Another food processing plant shutters its operations according to adding to a long list of closures. Right? And we're speeding along here. I need to read this one here for you now. The Defender. Children's health depends on news and reviews. This is June 30th, 2022. Rockefeller Foundation. We set the table. Report predicting COVID revealed food crisis. 2 years before it happened. Just a few months into the COVID-19 pandemic and almost 2 years before the global health officers warned of a food shortage crisis, the Rockefeller Foundation issued a report predicting the crisis and offering solutions. Them were making the crisis to offer them solutions, including shifts to online enrollment, online purchasing of food. You hear? In a report published in July 28, 2020, we set the table, meeting the movement to transform the U.S. food system, and found the foundation described a hungry and nutrition crisis unlike any this country has ever seen in generations. The author blamed the crisis on COVID-19. The report concluded the crisis would have to be addressed not by strengthening food security for the most vulnerable, but by revamping the entire food system and associated supply chain. In other words, we would need to reset the table. So they don't want only to reset the globe. They want to reset how we deal with food. The Rockefeller Foundation called for this food system reset less than 2 months after the World's Economic Forum on June 3, 2020 revealed in its version of a Great Reset. So they want to do the Great Reset, and they want to reset the way we eat food and the way food is supplied to us. Some of the contributors to the Rockefeller Foundation report are World Economic Forum members, right? A few of which, along with others, proponents of the reset table, also have ties to entitled pushing vaccine passports and digital schemes. All of them planning the agenda together, all of them. Don't get tied up, don't get tied up at all. You understand? Don't get tied up at all. And the FBI warns Food and Agriculture to brace for seasonal ransomware attacks. So cyber attacks are now coming into the food industry. So they're trying all different methods to bring this how food is supplied to the globe into a problem, into a situation like what we see in Genesis 47, right? And the money failed in the land of Egypt and the land of Canaan. The Egyptians came to Joseph and said, "Give us bread, why should we die in thy presence, for the money faileth?" And Joseph said, "Give your cattle and I will give you your cattle for it if money fail." And they brought their cattle unto Joseph, and Joseph gave them bread in exchange for their houses and their flocks and their cattle and herd and for their asses. And he fed them with bread for all their cattle for the year. So you have to pay through your nose. You have to pay through your nose. So they want to control the food. They want to gene edit the food. They want to patent the seeds. Right? There are companies out there doing that. I looked at that on Netflix the other night. People in India, farmers in India are killing themselves because for years they will grow their food they will take the best seeds from the best plants and store up those seeds and plant back those seeds. And that's how farmers has go on a large scale. They know, okay, they see these grandma plants here, these are the best. So we taking a corn from each one of them, these plants here, and we drying it, and we storing away that is a plant next year. So you want the best possible crop to come. Right? And this is what they keep doing to people. Right? Big companies saying that they alone must produce the seed for this product here. This is what's going on in our world right now. Big business is going on. Right? When they are patenting a seed, something that God created, They putting things in a genetically modified seed. And I'm telling you, you cannot get this seed unless you buy from us. That is Monsanto's. Go and research Monsanto's. You hear for yourself and see the kind of court case they have and what people beat them to because what they're doing was wrong. Right? So we have all different kind of disease coming upon us. And by the way, it is instructive to see that how this monkeypox is only spreading amongst the gay population. But that we will discuss that next time. What's striking them with some kind of plague right now? Right? Because the gay community is not like the heterosexual community. It's not like you have a relationship. You might be with a man will be with a man, but them fellas promiscuous too bad. So that is why the things spread around them. So in New York, Sodom, and Gomorrah, San Francisco, monkeypox spread like crazy. And they say that we need to respond to this because the homosexual community is being greatly affected by the monkeypox. Are you sorry for all this, my friend? If you only like that, or that, whatever. But back to the lesson here tonight. The government will own everything, and they will buy everything from the government. But we need to come out of for my people, and we need to submit ourselves to Almighty God. Because until or unless we do that, we ain't doing nothing, we ain't saying nothing. Right? On this thing now, hour and 9 minutes and going. It's only daughter earlier and doing a little fasting and so on. I've been dieting most of this week, trying to get myself in a more healthy position. And I think it's working. We cannot be dependent on food from external sources. We have to depend on God to feed us. Our bread and water is sure. Right? Faith without works is dead. So we have to put ourselves in a position where we go back to the land and back to nature and go back to basics. I think it is very important that we go back to basics. The sooner we do that, or start to practice it, the better for us. Because the events that are happening around us are rapid ones. And that's what the prophet said. At the closing timings, everything will happen very, very quickly. Okay, my friends? So I'm feeling very tired now. I haven't been eating much carbohydrates at all. But I eat a little potato and sweet potato tonight. But I'm feeling a little tired. I don't normally feel tired like this, but I'm feeling a little tired. And I say I've been fasting a lot. Right? So, all that you hear here tonight, take it up in your soul, do your own research. Research Monsanto's, research all these things that I spoke about. Do not trust man, don't trust me. I is me no good. I just say like him. Right? Double check what I say. You understand? But I'm very sure what I'm saying is solid. Where I'm getting it from is from the word of God, and the word of God is solid. Alright, my friends, so until next week, I'm signing off for now. So may God bless each and every one of you, and may you have a good week. Enjoy Emancipation Holiday and emancipate yourself in Jesus Christ. Let Jesus Christ be your ultimate freedom. But the war has already come and famine is coming. The Chinese and the Russians are threatening nuclear war, nuclear annihilation. Let's see how this thing goes. Right? But nuclear war is going to nuclear war is a dystopian society. again.